Wir haben noch einen weiteren Redebeitrag auf dem Gärtnerplatz, und zwar sprechen für Queer BIPOC München Kals, Pronomen they, them, und Nancy, Pronomen sie, hier. Kals und Nancy sind Teil von einem Team aus 6 Personen, die Queer BIPOC Munich veranstalten. Queer BIPOC Munich ist ein Safer Space exklusiv für queere Schwarze, Indigene, People of Color zwischen 18 und 35. Queer BIPOC Munich gibt es erst seit Mai diesen Jahres, doch der Space hat schon sehr viele Personen seiner Zielgruppe erreicht. Die Treffen finden jeden 2. und 4. Freitag im Monat statt. Wir freuen uns auf eure Rede.
Hi! We are Nancy and Cal from Queer BIPOC Munich, and we are grateful to stand here today and give our very own view on the topic of sexism. We all have experienced it, we all are affected by it, and it is impossible to escape its influence entirely. Sexist comments not only hurt people, but nurture a toxic mindset that leaves us divided and hurt. Most likely you have turned sexist sentiments against yourself, judging your wants and needs, limiting your self-expression, your actions and who you are, because you have been trained by society to hold yourself to some arbitrary standard. This will especially be the case if you are a person that was assigned female at birth or identify as a female. Today we want to highlight 2 topics, 2 subsections of sexism: misogynoir and cis-sexism.
It is important to question our sexism in an intersectional way, with race as an enhancing factor. There is indeed a specific double discrimination that only Black women and people who are perceived as such face. This discrimination is called misogynoir, a contraction of misogyny and noir, which means black in French. Although misogynoir is mainly perpetrated by cis men, let us face our own behavior. So there are several ways in which misogynoir can manifest itself. Hypersexualization, the stereotype of the angry Black woman, the stereotype of the strong Black woman, just to name a few. Regarding the beauty industry, internalized misogynoir expresses itself in correlation with the white beauty standard that is impossible for us to meet. Putting pressure on how we have to look is sexist in general. And it is all the more violent when it comes to Black women and female-presenting non-binary people. We are told we always have to look perfect, but we should always be on fleek. Even worse, we as Black women are policing other Black women by telling them how they should do their hair, their makeup, and almost blaming them if they dare to go for a natural look, and if they don't fit into the Black girl magic category. As a matter of fact, we as Black women will tell other Black women that they should not stay in the sun too long, or that they should use bleaching creams. Because the darker your skin tone is, the more likely you are to experience misogynoir. Now, misogynoir linked to the stereotype of the angry Black woman leads to auto-censoring ourselves in order to not fall into that stereotype. Because anytime Black women are expressing their feelings and thoughts, people are irritated by it and thinking that we should stop complaining, that we are only exaggerating. With internalized misogynoir in the Black community also comes the pressuring stereotype of the strong Black women. But it turns out that Black women can be depressed too, and they can't bear everything alone all the time. So we tend to gaslight our own feelings, and we expect other Black women to do the same because of that stereotype. We are already a minority within the minority, so let us hold on for each other and empower each other instead of dragging each other down with our inner sexist biases.
As the majority of our team at QBM are non-binary, cis-sexism is a topic that also particularly affects us. Simply trying to navigate our everyday life, we are faced with encounters. Simply trying to navigate our everyday life, we are faced with encounters that leave us deeply confused and hurt. We don't only encounter a lack of understanding from straight people, but also the very own queer community that we are a part of. Because we refuse to adhere to the binary system of man or woman, we find ourselves constantly having to justify and explain ourselves. And this in turn leads us to continuously questioning and doubting ourselves. We are constantly misgendered, treated as if we don't exist, as if we are a joke. And when we are mentioned, we are often just an afterthought, tucked on to seem politically correct. That causes a lot of us distress. It causes us to feel drained. Stepping into a world that neither sees or acknowledges us. How could we not turn all of that against ourselves? How could I not stand in front of my closet for hours, not knowing what to wear, that makes me feel both comfortable and makes me also adequate to society? How could I not question that I am valid as a non-binary person when all the non-binary people I see lifted up within the community are white, thin, and androgynous? Thank you. When that is the silently agreed upon standard of what a non-binary person should look like. I am black, I am fat, I am femme presenting. I am not any of those ideals. I cannot bind my chest in a way that makes me look like I don't have one. And I don't want to cut off my breasts either, because that is not something I have to do to be at peace with myself. Yet I find my thoughts spinning around that constantly, wanting to fit in yet again. I find myself wondering if I could really ask of people to call me they or to call me he. Similarly though, I recognize that I was and that I am part of the problem. When I was a teenager, I had an acquaintance who told me that they were trans. I never told them that they're not. I never confronted or attempted to discredit them. But I did not believe them. I thought, how can you be trans? You're not wearing masculine clothes. You're not making an attempt to hide the body that you were born with. You're wearing crop tops. I remember the feeling well of being mad that they thought they could use the label even though they did not put in the work. Now, many years later, I recognize that this was an ugly feeling and ugly thoughts to have. Now that I see myself for who I truly am, I realize that I was jealous of the freedom that they were experiencing back then. That they knew themselves and they were unapologetically themselves. I am also part of the problem because usually I only ask alternative-looking people for their pronouns. By doing that, I perpetuate the very same stereotype that I am hurting from. I perpetuate the notion that there is a way to look non-binary, that there is a way to be a good and a bad non-binary person. Acknowledging and addressing one's own sexist beliefs and behaviors is a daunting task. It requires a profound level of self-reflection, honesty, and a willingness to change. But we have to do the work. Thank you all for listening.